Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the Under Budget AV Club. This is your main man JV, and on the real, Don't Worry Darling isn't perfect, but it has some potential.
One, two, get down!
Olivia Wilde throws her hat into this well-trodden subject matter occupied recently by the likes of Last Night in Soho and Men, the aforementioned subject matter being misogyny. This isn't to say the soil isn't still fresh, because for some reason, even as a whole dude, I still find it interesting to see how masculinity is interpreted from the other perspective. The Handmaiden and Revenge being two of my favorites to touch on this subject in very, very different ways. So how does Don't Worry Darling hold up against such fierce competition? I think compared to the two most recent movies to go in this direction, Men and Last Night in Soho, this one lands right in the middle. It's not as pretty as Soho, and not nearly as deep as Men, but it's way more approachable than either of them. It doesn't have the pacing problems that Men had, and the script is just a bit tighter than Soho's, so on its own, it's above average. Everything here is decent, but I would struggle to call any individual part of it exceptional. I would put it at the level of a really long Black Mirror episode, like this last season, not the first two ones. Anyway, let's stop skimming the surface and let's dig a bit deeper. I'm gonna break this thing down as good, bad, and spoilers. Let's start with the good. One of the things that stood out to me throughout this entire film is the score. In all honesty, it's the freshest thing in this movie. I can really only describe it as A24 trailer-esque. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the trailer for Men. It's this creepy mix of diegetic and non-diegetic sounds that really pull out this almost primal carnal fear out of me. It takes these otherwise played out visuals and adds some individuality to them. The rest of the soundtrack is period appropriate tunes, with the song from the trailer being one of my favorites. It's not good enough that I had to call Kong to put an ear on it, but if he has seen it, he might have had a good thing to say or two. Okay. I've given enough backhanded compliments to the visuals, let's just touch on these briefly. They aren't bad per se. The dream sequences, as you would expect, are actually pretty nice to look at. It's just, even narrowing the scope to just the films to touch on this particular subject matter, it doesn't even come close. Movies like Neon Demon and Soho blow these visuals out the water. Not just as eye candy, but as soul food. The visuals suffer from the same thing the rest of the film does. It lacks soul. It lacks teeth. Experimental visuals on their own aren't enough, and these use the already overdone eye and ink blot motifs. And a psychological horror. Do you see the problem? If I wanted all style and a teaspoon of substance, I would just watch Sucker Punch. A big reason to do these trippy sequences is to visualize something that can't be seen. But if I can immediately interpret what I'm seeing on the screen with almost zero effort, then why even take the time to visualize them in the first place? And when I don't need to think, then I don't remember. And what you're trying to show me doesn't stick with me. Your message just becomes some rapidly evaporating thought cloud, not some lesson I should take away with me. Anyway, this is supposed to be the good section, so let's get back on track. Pacing is where I can want to give this movie some credit. For a movie attempting to be artsy, the pacing is well done here. This is a big reason why I say this film is accessible. Everything plays out at what I would call Hollywood pace. There aren't any quiet moments of contemplation or lingering shots to give you time to digest what you're seeing, mostly because this isn't really necessary here, but as an erotic psychological horror, Don't Worry Darling keeps you interested with either a sex scene, another clue to the overall mystery, or some big party, a la The Great Gatsby. This isn't a bad thing in my book. as not every film needs to be like The Green Knight. And if someone uses this film as a springboard into more art house films, then welcome to the club. We wear flower crowns on Fridays. Anyway, last but not least, the acting. Do I really need to say Florence Pugh did a good job? She's been good to great in everything she's been in so far. From Midsommar to Black Widow, she's slowly becoming a draw for me. Still, I feel she's a bit wasted here, as the character she plays doesn't really require her. It's just kinda nice to have her. What I mean is, anyone could have played this character. She's not complex. Shit, Olivia Wilde could have played her and done just fine. Like, you ever seen a horror movie where the main character is a woman? Like, not any specific one, just one that has like a mystery or some kind of twist? Yeah, then you've seen this protagonist before. Nothing more, nothing less. Moving on. Everyone else here is believable, but I wouldn't say I ever really stopped seeing Olivia Wilde and Chris Pine as actors playing characters. I did hear some people complaining about Harry Styles' acting, but first off, I don't know this dude. I heard he's in One Direction, but as far as his acting, he doesn't bring it. He doesn't necessarily leave it either, like he wasn't distracting or anything, except for the very obvious points where he should have cried and couldn't.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
Anyway, I don't know if it's his fault the character didn't send me, or if it's just like Florence's character, and he just didn't have enough nuance to work off of. This is about as smooth as a transition as I'm gonna get when it comes to the bad section. Let's talk about the writing. Okay, I put this one first because it's not that bad. It's actually decent. As far as the structure and dialogue, it's more like the film kinda fails at the mystery part. Everything else is pretty good. I really just don't like when movies have a twist at the end, but all the clues that are given to you don't really equal the reveal. Unless you're gonna subvert my expectations by recontextualizing the movie for me, or if on the second viewing the dots can be realigned to equal this new answer, then to me, steering the audience in the wrong direction before crashing your hand through the glass and yanking the wheel in the other direction isn't clever, it's lazy. I didn't guess the end of this film, surprisingly, mostly because I wasn't really interested in speculating, but also because the writer was too scared to reveal the twist. To put in clues, but that has to be the risk in mystery films. You have to risk the audience finding out your ending in order for the ending to be satisfying. You know, like you, Knives Out, right? We all seen Knives Out. Okay, hold on. Let's take a quick pause and kick everyone who doesn't want to be spoiled off the trolley. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this is goodbye. And I'll see you at the next screening. I hope you like the movie. Anyway, if you're still here, the twist of them being in a virtual world isn't a bad twist. If anything, the fact that the husbands put their unwilling wives into this nuclear family prison makes this an amazing twist. It opens up this really unique discussion about whether the duty of a man to provide and protect his wife outweighs the right to autonomy. Except, it's fucking wasted. To be honest, that's the feeling I was left with when the credits rolled. I felt unsatisfied. I felt let down by the villain, the climax, and the really sloppy ending. When you tackle an issue, you need to take the people who don't already subscribe to your ideology in mind. Am I saying you need to dilute your message? No, not at all. For example, I tell all my brothers and sisters to watch American History X, and they call me fucking crazy. But to me, it's one of the best depictions of racism in film, especially the opening scene. Okay, I won't waste too much time on this. The choice to have a bunch of black kids break into a Nazi's house unprovoked is a genius framing device. Our minds whiplash back and forth as you're torn between why these dudes are breaking into this man's house, to oh, he's a fucking Nazi, to wait, they're armed, to bro, they're running away. Why are you chasing them? Then Kurt Franklin.
No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I'm more than a conqueror.
So, forcing you to empathize with the opposition is a powerful yet necessary tool. This is something men got perfect. It wasn't the dudes that called the main character a bitch or tried to gaslight her that really stuck with me. It was the nice guy, because I could feel myself wanting to empathize with him. But in doing so, it made me take a look at how his behavior may seem harmless to me as a man, but it could be seen as something more sinister to a woman. This is what's missing from Don't Worry, Darling. Every male is a hardcore misogynist. They lack any nuance. I was like, yo, these are all bad dudes. And the tragic part was that Jack could have been perfect for this. Would they have given him some more character development? It would have made his final betrayal hit way harder. Pun intended. Bringing it back to men for one last time, I'm sorry. The final scene where the main character confronts her dead husband in Men is the best scene in the entire film. We don't necessarily like her husband. I mean, why would you? But we still feel just as bad as the main character when we finally have to turn our back on him. Even if an argument, a very bad argument, could be made for her part in his suicide, at the end, she can't carry that weight around. Here, Jack is just a selfish dude. And then you find out he's a selfish incel. And then he dies. That's it. If they had let him speak, if they had risked the audience empathizing with him, then this scene could have made the whole film worthwhile. This critique actually extends to all the male characters, Frank included. He's no one. We don't understand him at all. He is then just killed by his wife for seemingly no reason. Not one of the husbands is given the depth they should have had, and it's not like the film didn't have the characters, time, or the reason to do so. It's not even just the men that are basic in this film, it's the women too. You have a battle between the classic and new age woman here, and you just never do anything with it? In 2022? What a shame. The only wife that is willingly here is Olivia Wilde, and she drops the bomb near the end about losing her kids. And that's a really good justification. But that's it. They don't dig into it at all. How do you, as a director and actor for this character, not see the potential here? Because some women do actually like the traditional marriage structure depicted in this film, and it just villainizes the whole thing, which pushes away anyone who doesn't already agree with your message. Don't worry, darlings. Fear of a counter-argument is the cause of the shallow feeling this film has. This isn't a bad film. These are good ideas. They just aren't developed. Look, you have heard me mention films as being part of the experiment as a good and a bad thing. Well, let me finally define that for you. The experiment means the director or the writer is taking risks. He's doing something new. Maybe they dig in one hole for too long like men. And maybe the hole is dug half by hand and half by high quality machine. And like the last night in Soho, the whole thing crumbles in on itself, killing the miner who had a family and an evil brother. For no specific reason. Moving on. This film doesn't risk anything. It's too busy trying to be as pristine and as perfect as the world is created that it doesn't want to scuff or ruffle any feathers. Besides that one guy who cried on TV. Stop being a bitch, JP. Damn, crying about a movie. Because when you look at Olivia Wilde's real life actions, her support of battered women, her fighting for women's rights, you can tell she cares about this subject. But if you were just watching this film, you wouldn't know any of that. Because I don't feel her anger when Alice bashes Jack in the head. It's not her desperately trying to escape this man-made prison. Instead, we're just watching a film with no voice and no soul. that all too quickly cuts to black. No satisfaction to be had, just the credits and another review finished. You waiting for the next screening, and me staring at this random ass plane crashing. Wait, where did the plane come from? Isn't this a simulation run by Frank?